Hey everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun.
And I'm Tardy Tiff. That's my name today.
See, she came clean on her own. You did not have to know that she was a half an hour late,
Yeah,
but
this is keeping it real.
yeah, that's true. We're keeping it real tardy evident. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
No, he's not kidding. I was late. My brain and my calendar don't always sync up, and I thought we were at a different time, which very clear on my calendar we had the right time, but Carl was very sweet to wait for me to get my life together. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
I mean, I totally sympathize and I empathize with you. And I think one of the reasons why we enjoy doing this so much is because we both have very similar personalities when it comes to spontaneity and emergent ideas and things like that, which sometimes make us calendar and schedule challenged, right?
Yeah.
So you know, my question, not my question of the day, but a question that you may have.
Yeah.
When's the last time that you double booked yourself, Tiff?
Last week. Literally last week. But I will say, I actually often don't double book myself. In the 8 years that I've been working for the organization that we share, I've only double booked twice. And it was the very, very first year that I was working there, I double booked. And then this last week, I double booked. But I actually am usually really, really great about like scheduling. I've gotten it down to almost a science, but even sometimes science messes up. So yeah, so
I
this
hear you.
week I did. But the good news is I won't do it again for like 8 more years. So the next time I double book will be in 2032. And by then the robots will have taken over. So it's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Well, I can confidently say that I have done my double booking for the next 6 months, because
Oh,
it's usually maybe twice a year, which I know is not good. I'm getting better at it. I hate it, but I just had to send, a fruit and gift basket to our common friend Olga Vizier. Hi Olga, if you're listening, and I'm really sorry I double booked Larry and Kern on that Thursday, but thank you for working through it and getting them to figure it out. I'm very grateful for it, and I promise if I double book the rest again this year, it won't be for you. So, um,
hey, quick hot tip. Olga likes red wine and blue cheese.
ooh,
Just FYI, if you're looking to get
mm,
back in her good graces, red wine and blue cheese is
okay.
an Olga thing.
Oh, that's good to know. We did all right. So Olga, you're not listening because when I do this, I'm going to say I just had a feeling,
Yes.
that that this Grenache was going to work for you. So
Yeah,
okay.
there you go. Perfect.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, so what's been going on? How's your travels been?
Pretty good. I had a decent week. I was up in the Bay Area earlier this week. I flew in and flew out with like quick 24-hour roll around. And I had a great day in Alameda. And we did emotional intelligence and worked on, some strategies of kind of dealing with the chaos of life. And it was a really, really great session. And I had three people in the course like pull me aside at some point to talk about like a personal situation that they were going through. And I got to do some on the spot pro bono coaching, which was really great. I love like having people feel empowered to make changes in their life. And so I had some good conversations and I love that group. I love that group. And I'm really sad it was our last day together, but I wish them all the best, all the best. So I had a great week. Great week. What about you? Where you been? Where you been this week?
So I've been I've been various places, but I've visited those places virtually. So
Okay,
Monday,
cool.
Tuesday, I did a class for the state water boards, and we for their leadership development program, and we did managerial problem solving, which was a class I created for um, the the Sac State managerial development program that they offer to different orgs. So I did that a half day on Monday and a half day on Tuesday, and then I actually went to the Sacramento State campus and taught uh, team building as part of the MDP program for franchise tax board. So
Nice.
It was, and then it's a great group. Franchise Tax Board is one of my favorite clients. I love working with them. Whenever we have a needs call, they're like, so we've looked at last year's uh, curriculum, and then we looked at the feedback we got. And so what we're thinking is, do you really need to change anything? And if you have anything in mind, just let us know. If it's a new video, just let us know so somebody else isn't showing it in the program somewhere else, right? It's awesome. So, but unfortunately, there's a rumor that we might be losing them for a year or two, and so anyway, so I hope not because they've always been they've treated me very well. I've got to teach them every year in their cohorts, and they've had me to do a couple keynote addresses to their leaders and things like that. So, yeah, I love franchise tax board. Maybe your mission isn't always our favorite, but the way that you do it and the way that you treat me, I definitely have nothing but good things to say about you. And then yeah,
Well,
and
I
then
want you to
yesterday,
know.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry to say, I do my part to make sure they stay funded. So just
yeah,
so you know, I do my fair share to make sure they can keep hiring you. But go ahead, Carl. Sorry.
and I'm getting better at that, right? So anyway, but then and then yesterday I got to teach a cohort with our colleague Ebony Chambers, and we did
Mhm.
the first class in our anti-racist practice series to for the Northern Academy. So it was child welfare professionals. A lot of public health nurses were in the class, which was really
Love that.
interesting, and which was a really cool class, and just just level setting on a lot of the terms and just showing some stats. And we had people go through a couple databases that are available to look up some of the stats in their own counties
Mm,
and to look at, because I mean, keeping it real, I mean, if you have traveled past the Bay Area and Sacramento and start really do going up north in the northern part of the state, you get less and less diverse, right? And I mean, I don't think that's a big secret, but I think some of the things that people were saying was, I don't know if I see issues of structural or systemic racism and so just showing them, you may not see it because there's not a whole lot of numbers of people, but if you look at the percentages, they are very consistent with what is
mhm.
going on statewide, which was something that was, so just having people actually explore and look and, so it's very powerful. It was real cool. Ebony and I really enjoyed the group that we were working with, and we'll see them again next in February. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So then here I am today, sitting for a half an hour waiting for, something I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
My
Right.
bad.
I actually said 11 because I was going to do the dishes, but then she actually came early. She came a half an
I
hour
did.
early. So see,
Yes. Listen, if I had a pillow embroidered for me, it would say always late but worth the wait. That's
that's right.
I, I'm not
Uh,
known for my punctuality. Just FYI, it's not one of my strengths. It's on the opposite end of my strengths when it comes to timeliness.
some people would call that making a dramatic entrance, right?
I,
So,
I would just call it I have time blindness and I am always like I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm on time for work though. I will say um what that was like a fatal flaw for me for years. I tell people all the time I was late for work for like 12 solid years in a row. And that's not a lie. I really was late for work a lot, and I can blame it on a lot of things like kids, trains, whatever. But it's 100% me. And I just remember like there was a real disconnect for me between like being on time and being productive because I'd be like, but I always get my work done. So who cares if I slide in sideways, 17 minutes late every day. But um, now that I'm a bit older and I look at time a little bit differently when it comes to at least work, I do make sure, aside from today's little snafu, that I try to be on time. And it's really funny because I'm still late because I try to get there like an hour early and I'm always a half hour early. So I'm still late, but I'm not late. I'm late for what I set for myself, but I'm always on time for what I do. So nobody's ever waiting for me. That's I don't know if that makes any sense. The strategies to try to be on time. The strategies. It's wild.
I mean, that word salad just I didn't even think about you being late anymore. So I mean,
Think
that works.
shock and awe, shock and awe. Just confuse them, and then they don't know that you were a half hour late. It's so wild. I mean, I
Yeah.
used to go so far to just not be on time, like so much effort to be able to be late. Like it's ridiculous now that I like look back at in the olden days. But I would do things like leave my purse in the car and grab a piece of paper and walk in through the lobby back to the work area to make it look like I was with a customer in the lobby and I was not just getting to work, but I had been at work. I just was in the lobby and that's why I wasn't on my desk and my computer wasn't on. Like it's ridiculous. Like anything but just, be on time. But I'm good now. I've recovered. I'm reformed. I am reformed.
It reminds me of a song I used to sing my choir in my church out in the desert there, Community Lighthouse Ministries, and we used to sing "On Time God," and the chorus is, he may not be there when you need him, but he'll be there right on time, right? So,
Hmm.
you know, or
That's
when you
right.
want him, right? He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. So, yeah, that's right. When I'm supposed to be there is when I'm supposed to be there, and you will see the benefits, right? So there
Yes,
you
that's
go.
right. And I always, just for the record, feel bad when people have to wait for me. So
Yeah.
just so you know, I do have remorse, but I do. Here's what's really interesting about like where I think about time, not including today, because today was really accidental. But um, if it's just like to get to work, to just arrive, I don't really like it's not that important to me. But if it's somebody's waiting for me, then I do try to be on time. Like um, in work settings and social settings, my friends always know. My friend, like even last week, they were like, we all went to brunch. There was 8 of us that were meeting for brunch, and they're like, "Oh, what time should we meet? We'll meet at 11." I got there at like 11:15, and they all knew. Like it wasn't a surprise. They were like, "Wow, you're pretty early, Tiff," because I got there at 11:15 and not 1 o'clock because I'm that. One day I'll be a better person. I'm not today. Maybe next year. It's
Yeah.
today's National Quitters Day anyway. So if I had
Oh yeah.
if I had resolved to be better with my time, then I would have already stopped today anyway. So
Yeah.
next year,
Well, my
2026.
my bandmates know that if 6:30, I'll be there about 6:37, 6:38. You
And
know,
that's why you
yeah.
forgive me.
But see, yeah, but then also, being a singer, I don't have drums to set up or guitars to
Yeah.
tune. I just show up, the microphone's ready, and but I definitely give my all when I'm there. So I mean, I'm not. If I'm gonna be late, I'm gonna make it up, as we go along. I promise. So, yeah. So cool. So where are you? What does your schedule look like? We were talking a little bit about before the podcast, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
I have Hell
tell us about
Week.
your schedule. Yeah,
I
all week.
have Hell Week coming up. So I'm actually leaving uh Sunday. Monday's a holiday, but I need 2 days to travel to where I'm going to. I'll be up in the North State again. And so I have 3 days up in the middle of like 2 hours west of or east of the middle of nowhere. I'll be there for 3 days, and then I leave and I go west to the other center middle of nowhere for next Friday, and then I literally don't have time to go back home before I have to leave again. And so I'm going to take my time coming down from the North State, stop, and I'm going to see my bestie one day. I'm pretty excited about that. We have a bestie date planned since I'll be in the area and super excited about that. And then I'll just be in Bakersfield for another 3 days for the week after. So I'm going to be on the road. I think I counted it 11 days. Um, and working every single day except for the weekends. So good
Be a whole
times.
week and a half. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot. By the time I get home, and what's crazy is I get home next Wednesday, which would be, well, I'll get home on the 29th. I'll work that whole day and then come back on the 29th. And then I have a virtual class the very next day from home. So not even like a day to unpack, maybe do laundry, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then I'm leaving from there. I'm going to go to Mexico. So uh,
Nice.
and
Very
I'm really
nice.
excited about that. I miss the sunshine. I miss like the not having 100-mile-per-hour winds, although the wind has died down finally today, thank God.
Yeah,
Um, I'm really looking forward to that. And
Yeah.
now I won't have TikTok. So it's like, what do I do with my life? I'm gonna have to like, I don't know, engage with nature, talk to my family, read books. It's gonna be weird. I don't know. Because I'm
Yeah.
deleting all social media. If I can't
Yeah.
have TikTok, I don't want anything. So I'm like literally going to try to get rid of everything. I'm saying the word try because we're addicts to our phones. We're addicts to our like that dopamine, serotonin bump that we get from social media. So I don't know, quitting cold turkey, I'm going to be like sweating in a corner, rocking back and forth. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm going to give it a good college try and see how it goes. Mark
Oh, yeah.
Zuckerberg.
The average American looks at their phone 150 times a day.
Yeah, I believe that.
Mm.
I believe that. And
Yeah.
I'm not average. I'm above average. So I look away from my phone 150
Yeah.
times a day and then I look at my phone the rest of the time. Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely an addict.
Yeah. And I,
Definitely.
and I did the math and I looked at it. I mean, I mean, just even being generous, if we get 8 hours of sleep, we're probably, have 15 hours a day where we have access to our phone. So maybe that's once every 6 minutes,
Hmm.
right? And I know, that one time it's going to bleed over to the next 6 minutes sometimes. So yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. It's a tough one, so
I literally like walk around my house. Again, this maybe speaks volumes about who I am as a person, but like I wake up and the first thing I do when I wake up is I grab my phone, right? Well, not necessarily. The first thing I do is I pet my dog because my dog gets up on the bed when the sun comes up. He knows it's time to start to wake up, and so he sleeps on his bed all night. But as soon as the sun's up, he jumps up on the bed with us and lays down. So the first thing I do in the morning is usually I pet my dog for a couple minutes, and then I grab my phone, and then that's it. I'm on my phone like until I have to do something else. And so even if I'm like walking around the house cleaning, I have like TikTok on in the background and I can swipe and go to the next video and do stuff and then swipe and go to the next video and do stuff. And so I'm literally have it on as background noise 99% of the time. It's
yeah.
it and you never get it never gets repetitive. That's the thing with TikTok and why I loved it so much is because it never gets repetitive. There's always new content and it's always interesting and engaging. And gosh, coming back to the reality in the real world is really freaking depressing. I don't
Well,
wanna.
I I don't have to break my dependence on foreign TikTok because I've already broke it. I down I took TikTok off, deleted TikTok from my phone last year because I would be stuck on it. I would watch videos and videos and then when I try to exit out, it wouldn't let me out, right? And so you'd hit the back button and it sends you to another video and sends you another video. And I just recognized there were a lot of things that I had to do that were not being done because of my
Yeah.
dependence on porn TikTok. It had nothing to do with the parent company having my personal information. Everybody has my personal information, I'm sure. But but it definitely was something that's I mean, even when my wife, when she sends me a TikTok on, for a text or anything, it
Yeah.
says you want to download, I just say no. And you didn't see the video? No, because it was on TikTok. And so now she understands, but I had to because otherwise it would be all consuming and I have enough things that's all consuming like Wordle and crossword puzzles and and fantasy baseball and now fantasy basketball. That's an everyday thing. I'm
Hmm.
stuck on it even when they're not playing. I'm still looking at it every 3 minutes. It's ridiculous. But if I mixed in a little TikTok there, I mean I'm stuck on the reels. Insta reels bad enough, so we're just watching red
I
hot,
was gonna,
red hot bearing balls melt, spaghetti or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
well, for the record, most of the reels are just like 2 week old TikToks. So
Cool.
good luck
And
with
I'll
your boring reels.
cool. Then I'll
Good luck.
watch the 2 week old Red Star reels now. They're is it
Red
called Red
note,
Star? Red
red
Note?
note,
I don't know.
red note, little red book.
Blue
Yeah.
Sky, Red Note, yellow stars, green clovers, purple horseshoes, whatever it is, right? So
I'm
yeah.
going dark.
All
I am
right.
going dark. I'm gonna have no idea what's happening in the world. I refuse for this right now. I'm resolving right now. We'll see how long it lasts. Because if there's one thing about me, I can be fickle. Uh,
So your girl's going in the bunkers. So
I'm
yeah.
going in the bunkers. I
All
really
right.
am. I'm going to do my part. Well, I live in Mexico. half the time, and TikTok is not banned in Mexico, so maybe I'll get on I'll get on TikTok and we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
See,
But but I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna go dark. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'm going dark in America for sure. So
okay, cool.
no
So
instas follow. Leave me alone.
no
Write me a
instant
letter.
offense to.
Write me a letter. Write me a letter. I'll give you my mailing address. You can write me a letter. Put a stamp on it.
So Tiff, I have a question for you.
I've got an answer.
Okay. The question is, and it's just a random one I picked from my best self deck, right?
Yep.
And it says, what is one thing that people often get wrong about you?
That I am always unserious and that I don't know stuff. That I'm an airhead, essentially. I don't know how else to say it. That I'm just because I'm a bubbly person. Um, I think a lot of people get wrong that I'm very surface, but I'm actually a pretty deep thinker. And I take my work seriously. I take like what I'm passionate about seriously. I just don't take myself too seriously. And so I think a lot of people assume that I lack depth. And then when they get to know me, they're like, oh, you're actually kind of smart. And I'm like, yeah, boom. I am. All right. But I refuse to be a boring academic. No offense to boring academics. We need you too, right? Like there's room for all of us. But I just life is just too short for me to take everything so seriously. But I do have a lot of depth and I do know stuff. I'm highly educated, even if it's self-educated. I read a lot. I love perspectives. I love hearing other points of view. I try to be well-rounded. Um, and so I'm not just a goofball. I know stuff too. That's all. That's it.
Yeah.
What about you, Carl?
Well, I was mistaken for somebody who used to smoke crack and now teaches people to not
Oh,
smoke crack
okay.
by one of our friends in the Alameda County program that we talked about last year, right? But so she's quite mistaken because I still smoke crack. I'm kidding, but no, but which we because we talked about first impressions, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And what people thought, and I said, when I was walking through the door, or when you walked through the door and you saw me, what were your first impressions? And somebody said, well, that you're a diabetic, and it's because I had my little monitor under,
yeah,
low enough where you could see it under my shirt. And then
yeah.
the one that usually comes up, which is the thing that generally people mistake about me, is that people think that I'm Hispanic or Latino. And, then, I have to tell them, no, I'm not, I'm not Hispanic or Latino, right? And which usually causes some shock, and I don't want to say shock and awe, but just shock. And especially when I don't know how many times I've had people walk up to me and say, "Excuse me, you speak Spanish?" And I've learned to say "Lo siento, no habla español," and then they look at me like, "You're Latino and you don't speak Spanish. Do you know that one, right? You right." And so then I have to tell them, "No, no soy Latino," right? And every now and then they'll be like, "Okay," and they'll walk away, or they'll ask me what I am, and I tell them, I said, "I'm a black. I'm regular old black guy. Actually, I'm not a regular old black guy, but I'm just my dad's black. My mom is German Irish, Chumash Indian, right? My dad's people come from the South and from Haiti on either side of the family, and which originally is from Africa, right? And so, we got a lot of history, got a lot of stories there. Our family story keeper just passed this week. My aunt Teresa Brooks, she passed
Hmm.
99 years old, 3 months short of her 100th birthday. And so we're going to be having services for her, sometime this week, or sometime this month. But just thinking about, how that's something that definitely does, um, I get mistaken for very often. And so it makes me think about, how that affects people and how they interact with me. Because I mean, if you say you don't have a bias, then it's because you haven't really looked hard enough,
Right,
right?
right.
We all have biases. We all make assumptions, which are biases, right? So if you make assumptions about people, it's a bias. And so stop beating yourself up over it. Recognize what your biases are, and then say, okay, so now that I know that I have a bias, how is it affecting what happens, right? So just thinking about that idea, if I, what doors am I able to get through that maybe my cousins can't or friends can't, right?
Hmm.
Or, maybe what I'm not necessarily given implicit access to, like other folks, right? We were talking about that the other day in a class where somebody was talking, when I was with Lamar, who is our friend, who is African American, and we were having this conversation in a class in Fresno, and another black guy said, like Lamar mentioned, sometimes if you're in mixed company, he lives in Merced, which is not necessarily the most, I mean, it's pretty diverse, but it's not as diverse as other places, right? And so
Right.
he said, when I walk by and I see a black guy, we just nod our heads and we know that, right? That's not something that I've always encountered with other black folks because they don't always know that I'm black, right?
Hmm.
And so it's not necessarily just Hispanic Latino folks, but it's just, a lot of folks that, you know, um, would, oh wow, and so it's just interesting. What I learned, you don't make eye contact, you keep your eyes down because you start a fight otherwise. Why are you staring at me? Why are you looking at my girl? As many times I rode the bus home when I was a kid, I learned not to make direct eye contact. So culturally, that's a little different for me than maybe other folks,
Hmm.
in my race and ethnicity, right? But um, it's definitely something that comes up and makes me think, maybe some of the classes I get to teach and some of the topics I talk about, like bias and being anti-racist and and inclusive leadership and belonging. I wonder if people approach what I say in a different tack because they may think that I am a specific race or
Hmm.
ethnicity, and so they make an assumption in their head, which, like I said, it's nothing to be upset about, right? But it is definitely something that I don't know how many times when I just because I don't usually just bring it up right. Hey, look, I'm a black guy. Just don't if it comes up in conversation, how many times people say,
Right.
and which is an acknowledgement of something's different, right? And so, that's definitely something that people mistake,
Hmm.
and it may seem like it's just a surface thing, but it does go deeper. It does go deeper. I mean, how do you approach me? Would you approach me different in some of the things that I talk about or some of the comments that I make if you had full knowledge, just in terms of how I present of my race, right? So it's it's interesting. My wife and I were just talking about that the other day. I said that there's things that you don't necessarily, you know, you don't necessarily have to think about because you are a black woman who come to people know that you're black when you walk through the door, right? As opposed to some of us folks who maybe have parents um, that are white or a different race,
Hmm.
or just even very light skinned, black folks who, my barber, he, he's lighter than me and, but I mean, both of his parents were darker skinned, right? And so, just some of those things that people have to deal with just in terms of, the makeup and how they present themselves, right? And so, and like I said, sometimes it limits conversation, sometimes it surprises conversation. But the one thing that's important to recognize is that, just because we look a certain way doesn't mean we all act, believe, and respond to things in the same way. So
Yeah.
really looking at people individually, right? My grandma's like you. She was not Hispanic Latino at all, but to her, she was a Latina, right? She
Hmm.
spoke fluent Spanish. Her best friend is my godmother, my madrina, right?
Hmm.
And she didn't speak a lick, she spoke very broken English, right? So my grandma grew up in a Hispanic community and really embraced, her the community where people thought she was just a light-skinned Mexican lady.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting, how we do it. My best friend's mom, she was from Peru, but her parents emigrated from Japan during the war. So World War II. So she is full-blooded Japanese who is a Latina, right? And speaks with you know, a Peruvian accent and makes Peruvian and El Salvadorian food because my best friend's dad was El Salvadorian, right? So I mean, I love the mixtures and cultures. It always makes me want to learn more. I hope,
Hmm.
and I like to think a majority of people say, I want to know more. Maybe I don't know how to access that, but I do want to learn more, right? And some folks are saying, I don't want to dig too deep because I don't want to get in trouble. So, you know how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I get that. It's funny because when you say that people come to you and they want you to speak Spanish, I get the opposite because I do speak Spanish and people are
Yeah,
always like thrown off by the fact that I speak Spanish, especially other Americans, especially when I'm in Mexico and I speak Spanish. The other
yeah,
Americans that don't speak Spanish, are like, how did you learn Spanish?
yeah.
Um, like
Did
lots of
you have a Babbel
ways.
account? Were you on
Right.
Duo?
But I mean, I did take it in school, I took it in school, but I was immersed in the culture. And um, like language is something that I think that's important to people. It's part of their identity. And I want to try to speak. Like I went to Italy, I learned Italian. I wasn't good at it, but I was getting better. If I go to China, ni hao, I'm going to learn some Chinese. I'm
Yeah,
going to get on Red Note and start practicing, which that community is, there's a beautiful thing happening there, let me tell you.
yeah,
Where people are like connecting with each other, learning about each other's
great.
culture. I
Yeah.
will say, if I can tell a funny something I found hilarious. Uh, the one of Again, for those who don't know, a lot of people that are leaving we're called TikTok refugees right now. We're getting fled from our home app, so we're looking for new apps to settle in. And a lot of people went to Red Note, which is basically like Chinese TikTok, very similar in nature.
Well,
And
TikTok is a Chinese company, right? So I mean,
no, it's
that's
not. That's there. There is a lot of misconception about it being a
mm-hmm.
Chinese company. ByteDance owns a portion of TikTok, and 1% of ByteDance is owned by the Chinese government. 1%. But it's 20% owned by employees. It's 20% owned by private investors. Like China, the Chinese government does not own TikTok. It has like just like our
Oh,
government has
oh,
invested in like Meta, like so does
mhm.
that make it
Yeah.
a
No, it
government app? It's not.
yeah.
So like lots of people own TikTok. It's a public traded company. There's again investors, there's people, but ByteDance, which again has it's ByteDance is a Chinese company, but it's not owned all by the Chinese government.
Mhm.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's a
but
complicated, yeah.
Red Note is 100% owned by the Chinese Communist Party.
Hmm.
And so that is a Chinese app. And so people are going to Red Note as TikTok refugees and giving their data to the Chinese government, which is what the government supposedly was afraid of. But what I love about this exchange is that the people are taught, like the Chinese people are welcoming the American TikTok refugees, and they're creating like these cultural bonds and like learning about each other's culture, like a very curious environment. And so one of the creators said, "Tell me a joke about an American." This is the point I was going to get to. That was funny. So tell me a joke about an American about Americans, and they said Americans eat like they have free health insurance. That was so funny. True, true, true. It was a sick burn. It was a sick burn, but 100% true. So I thought that was hilarious. But
That is funny.
yeah, it's really funny people learning like, oh, Chinese people live in houses. Yes, Chinese people, go to work yes, like what we think of China, communist China is probably not what what it really is. And I think that that veil is getting lifted, and we're Duolingo right now, the number one language people are learning on Duolingo is Mandarin.
Mandarin.
So
Yeah.
So it's interesting, this cultural shift. We'll see where it goes. Again, someone will have to tell me because I'm going dark, but it's quite interesting. Um, so I have a question for you. I have a
Okay.
question. It
All
came to
right.
me this morning when I was rushing to get ready because I was a half hour late. Um, and I don't even know how to word this, but do you have like a super secret superpower that it's like a gift that you have that's like super unique to you, like that's not like singing or whatever, but like something that, like, I'll give you my example that so you can, I don't know how to word this, but
No, yeah, I think I get it. But go ahead.
oh, okay, I'm the baby whisperer. Okay, babies love me. um I can soothe a fussy baby in like 10 minutes or less. Like I could put a guarantee on that. So if you have a baby that's been like fussy and crying and colicky and you are stressed out and you hand me that baby, I will have that baby asleep in 10 minutes or less. That's my guarantee. Um, and people don't believe me in that, but we like I went to Hawaii last year and we were waiting in line at the Dole Plantation. We were going to ride the train. My mom had never been there before, and so we were going to ride the train around the fields and stuff like that. And so the line was like super long. We had to wait almost an hour, but there was a family in front of us in line, and it was like a young mom, her husband, and then her parents were there. And they had two small children. One was a toddler, and one of them, I think he was less than a year old, but he was like, he wasn't walking yet, but he could crawl around. They had like a little wagon for them and whatever. So it was hot. It's humid. It's Hawaii, and the kids were fussy, and the toddler was having a meltdown. The baby was tired. He was having a meltdown, and the mom was pissed, and the dad was just like, I don't know what to do. So the grandparents are trying to soothe the kids. The mom is yelling at the dad to take the baby, and the dad's like trying to soothe the baby. And like me, my mom, my husband are behind him, and we're kind of like chatting it up with the dad because he's trying to like not talk to the wife because the wife is really cranky. And her look, let me tell you, looks could kill. She would have murdered me 47 times. And I'm just chit chatting with the husband and letting him know, hey, it's gonna get easier. Like babies are hard, kids are hard. Like they're he kept saying, I'm so sorry they're acting up. And I'm like, they're babies. Like this is what they do. Like, don't apologize. They're just doing what kids do. So she tells him, get that baby. She's telling the husband, grab the baby, because the parents are trying to soothe the baby and the baby's just not doing what they want. So we're chit chatting with him and the baby's fussy. And I said, give me that baby. I'll put him to sleep. And he goes, no, he's nap trained and da 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 da. And I said, I promise you, if he'll come with me, will you? We're not going anywhere. We're in line. I promise not to steal your baby, but I'll put the baby to sleep. And he's like, no, well, not that he would say no, don't take the baby, but he's like, he won't fall asleep. He's nap trained. He always sleeps at the same time. And I said, well, do you want a break? I'll hold him right now so you get a break. And so I just went like this to the baby, and the baby immediately just comes to me. Like they do. Like I never steal a crying baby. Like if I go like that and they come to me, I'll take him. So I just grab the baby. I hold him for a minute, and he immediately lays his head on my shoulder, like immediately. And the dad was like, and then all of a sudden I'm like just holding him. And then the baby puts two fingers in his mouth. He's like, that's it. He's done. That's when he's going to sleep. And I said,
Wow.
what did it take me? 2 minutes. And I held that baby and he passed out immediately. My mom was like, you really are the baby whisperer. I said, I'm telling you, this is not my first baby. I will find a stranger's baby and I will put your baby to sleep. So if anybody's struggling with fussy babies, I got you. That's my special super secret power, the baby whisperer. Don't ask me
Wow.
about your toddlers. I could care less about your toddler. That's a you problem, not a me problem. But if you got a baby that needs to go to sleep, I got you.
Okay. Well, so if we're going in that level of superpower, I think my superpower is making things fit,
Ooh, that's a good one.
right? You
Tetris.
know, yes, I love Tetris. I got real good at Tetris. There's other games that I play that I like being able to make things fit.
Yes.
Um, I think a lot of it comes from um, just being from a family of pack rats, but then
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
also I think a lot of it also has to do with my job working. One of my first jobs was working at Price Club, right, which is now Costco, right? But if you're old enough to remember Price Club, before it changed, the same colors and really the same for the same what you call it registers and conveyor belts. They came in while I was working for Price Club, right?
Yeah.
So all those things like that. And so you have a cashier and then you have a boxer. And I used to make it a game to see what would fit where and what was appropriate to fit and how to make as quick as possible. And so I was really proud of my work. It made the time go by a lot faster. I liked doing the cash register, even before the conveyor belts with the scanning. We used to have to read out
Mhm.
the 4 or 5 digit number of the product, and I would memorize those, and we would do that back and forth. But so just putting things in, boxes, bags, things that match frozen goods, right, and non-perishable goods, and other things like that, making and you see people who don't really pay attention to it. I mean, if you're gonna put, my Pine Sol and Lysol in with my chicken thighs, I know that this really isn't your game, right? So,
Right.
just that's definitely something that's good. And how is it translated now? I am the dishwasher loader in the house, right? And so it's something where I will make sure that if we have a full sink, which usually happens because no one else wants to load the dishwasher. And so I will no if I like I'm going to I'm interested. I'm leaving Monday night. I'm going to Tulare, and then I'm going to Visalia and Bakersfield this week. I'm coming back Thursday night, and I'm interested to see how, if the same dishes that I left, if I leave one dish on a Monday night, if it's at the bottom of all right. So just paying attention,
Yeah.
right? But I like to do it every night. It's therapeutic for me, especially during the pandemic. It really was something that was part of my routine. I felt like I go to sleep after I did the dishwasher. I felt like I accomplished something before going to bed. So I'm really good at making sure things fit in a specific way. And if anything's left over, how can I make it fit? Very rarely do I have things that are left over, except for like big pots and pans that just
Right.
are too, unwieldy. But I will try to be as comprehensive as possible. And so my wife now, she knows. She just said, "Oh, just I'll leave it to you." And or even if I'm home, I said, "Don't worry, I'll load the dishwasher." So, but for me, it's fun. I think it's a puzzle. It's like Tetris, and it's very therapeutic. And when I get done,
Mhm.
I feel accomplished. But I'm good at loading cars, loading suitcases, right? Making if you have something that you don't think is going to fit, come holler at your boy, right? And
Yep.
especially now that I've seen multiple episodes of Marie Kondo, and just learning how everything fits. I mean, I am great at rolling up t-shirts and underwear and everything else, and so it's that's my superpower. I
Love
can
it.
make shit fit, right? So yeah,
That's Mr. Salcido shares that superpower with you.
right
I'll
on,
be like, that's not going to fit. He's like, bet. And he will
right,
like, he always makes it work. I'm amazed by it. And like his pet peeve is the grocery store thing. When he
yeah,
watches people bags in a stupid way, like it pisses him off more than anything that you can imagine.
yeah,
Like puts him in a rage.
yeah.
He's like, why are you doing it like that?
Or when we were doing self checkout at Walmart, I tell my wife, I'll do it,
Yeah.
or she'll scan it, she'll give it to me, and I'll bag it, right? Just
Mhm.
because, like I said,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun for me. It's a system. It
Yeah.
helps me
The
focus
challenge.
and helps me recognize, okay, I'm in this crowded place with all these people yelling and hollering, but I can focus on this, right? So it's something
That's cool.
that's cool. So yeah. And yeah, so if you have anything that needs to fit somewhere, let me know. I can I'm pretty cheap. I will not charge you an arm and a leg. We'll make it work. And does
Okay.
this bring you joy? Right.
Yes,
So
there you go. So I know we'll probably have to talk about our topic at some point, but I was thinking about listening to you load the dishwasher. Fun fact, I don't have a dishwasher in any of my houses. None of them. Even when I bought this house in California, it had a dishwasher, and when I remodeled the kitchen, I took it out and didn't put a new one. I replaced that space with something else because I hand wash. I've
Yeah,
always hand washed. I probably always will hand wash. Even when I have a dishwasher, I don't use it. So,
yeah. So
that's also
I,
therapeutic for me. I'd like to wash the dishes. I won't go to bed if there's dirty dishes in the sink. So I wash the dishes
yeah.
every night before I go to bed.
So I was raised without a dishwasher too, right?
Yeah.
And but now that I have one and I have one that I like, and I sold dishwashers, right, for a while when I was working at Sears. That's another dinosaur,
Yeah.
right? But it was something that I learned to appreciate and figured it out. But my secret to clean dishes is to hand wash, right? And
Yeah.
so I will definitely, if I don't completely scrub things off, I will make sure that they're rinsed if there is hard caked on stuff. And so I'm trying to train my family. Scrape your, do not leave, I do not want extra food left in the sink. That is a pet peeve of mine. That's annoying and
Yeah.
it's lazy.
Yeah.
So scrape your stuff off in your trash, and then I will take care of any of the hard caked on stuff before I put it in the dishwasher, because then I get that comment, oh, it's dirty, it's left on. Well,
Yeah.
because you left it in there like that, right? So, if
Yeah.
yeah, so that's definitely I will hand wash first and then put into the sink and put into the dishwasher to make sure that it's sanitized and everything else like that.
I have nothing against dishwashers, so this is not coming from a place of judgment. I have nothing against dishwashers, and I know they sanitize. Hand washing doesn't do that. I there is the therapeutic of washing the
Yeah,
dishes that I like.
yeah,
So
yeah,
don't think I'm anti dishwasher. If you use a dishwasher, rock on with your bad self. There's nothing wrong with it. Not a one thing. I prefer. I just really like to hand wash dishes. It's just a weird thing that I do. My kids
yeah,
hated it. They why can't we have a dishwasher? Because we don't, and we all wash dishes. That we all do. But
yeah, yeah,
more power to the dishwashers. More power.
yeah.
They're pretty efficient nowadays, from what I hear. That they you don't even have to do all the rinsing and stuff nowadays. But I'll never
I,
know.
I, I,
I'll never know.
yeah. Well, I beg to disagree, and so
Yeah,
so yeah, I hear you, and then I'll hear it if anything's left. Oh, there's a speck of something. Well, it
Richard,
probably
you should
wasn't
better.
from my dish. I just wanted you to know that, right? Yeah. All right.
All right.
So my expectations are to make sure that, things are pre-washed and that there isn't something that's left over
Yes.
that might get missed. And so turning to our topic today on expectations and which is really the third piece of the coaching ethics, right?
Competencies.
And
Yes.
competencies, right? So, Miss ACC, would you like to read off that third piece there?
Of course I do. I have them memorized, but I also have them written down. But so just FYI for those of you who've been following along, the first competency we talked about a few episodes ago was about demonstrating ethical practices. And so we talked a lot about ethics. The last time we were together, we were really talking about embodying a coaching mindset. And so we talked again about being flexible and open-minded and client-focused and all of those things. And so the third competency for coaches, according to again the International Coaching Federation, is establishes and maintains agreements. And I really like this one for a few reasons. Number one, it allows people to have clear expectations in the relationship. Like, here's what the coach will do, here's what the client does, and really kind of sets the foundation of clear expectations. But it also, in holding and maintaining, and maintaining these clear expectations or these agreements, um, it allows us to create that safety, which is another competency in the predictability. Remember, we talked about the scarf. Certainty is important. And so part of creating certainty in any kind of relationship is setting like the ground rules of here's what this relationship is going to look like. And of course, you adjust it as you go along, but um, creating that foundation of clear expectations of what I'm going to do, what you're going to do, which again connects back to all of the other realms that we're interested in. It applies to coaching, it applies to leadership, it also applies to how we treat people in human services. So, what do you hear when you hear the word establish and maintains agreement? What comes to mind for you?
That what it comes to mind is, like you mentioned, just in all realms of what it is we talk about, that people know what to expect, right?
Mhm.
And it's something I talk about all the time. I rarely meet anybody who really is into pop quizzes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, for some people that might be exciting, it might be fun, but generally it's fun and exciting for those situations and topics where there isn't a business need, or
Mhm.
something that's super important to who I am or lifestyle. It's like
Right.
it's great to be surprised by a wine when you're wine tasting, right? It's great to be
Right.
surprised when you're going out and your spouse wants to take you somewhere, or just whatever else it is, or buy a present, right? That's cool. But when we're talking about situations where we are engaged with other people in a coaching partnership, or in a leadership role, or in a position where we have some type of authority in the lives of a family, the people who we are interacting with, it helps them to develop trust,
Mhm.
that they know what to expect when they walk through the door. This is, who I am. Hey, look, but they're really nice. They're pleasant, but also, hey, look, if I made a mistake or I didn't necessarily live up to, my end of the bargain, that, I know what to expect from that person. They're not going to run me down, or they're not going to spring anything on me. They're going to let me know ahead of time what's going on. And so when that's established, when that is stated, and then because I think there's different things, right? It's
Right.
establishing, but what happens? How do you establish this, right? You establish it by stating what it is that you are intending, and then you maintain it through backing up what it was that you stated was going to happen,
Mhm.
right? So do what you say you're going to do, and make sure that it's on a consistent basis, right? It can
Right.
really make a difference.
Absolutely. I also, to me, what is connected here too is like the reminder of like these expectations, because it's really easy to get lax in your agreement when you don't think it's causing any harm. And if I go from like a leadership point of view, for example, if I say to you like our agreement is, oh, let's go with being tardy since I'm tardy Tiffany today. But if I'm saying to you, um, your day starts at 8 a.m., you're expected to be here at 8 a.m. ready to work, and that's the agreement. And then I never hold you to that. There's never any kind of consequence for being tardy. This is why I was tardy for 12 years, because I could come in at 8:04, 8:07, 8:17, and there was the worst, you were late. Like, thank you for letting me know I was there. I know what time I came in, but nothing ever really came of that. So really, the agreement was established, but it wasn't maintained because I was allowed to continue that behavior without any real consequence. Not that I needed to be punished, but it wasn't like a big deal. And sometimes that happens, like even in a coaching relationship where, again, we're all human. Maybe we cross over a line a little bit. So if I'm a coach and my role is of the coach to really evoke awareness and to get people to think for themselves, but every once in a while I throw in a little hot tip of, well, here's something I've learned, and then maybe or maybe it goes more into consultancy than coaching. Well, if I breach that agreement one time without putting the guardrails back on it, then that might be the expectation moving forward. So it's not just about, I think that's why this is so important that it's worded both establishes and maintains agreements. Like you can create agreements all of the time, but how do you make sure that we maintain them?
Yeah.
And agreements can be, we can change some words around here. It can be expectations, it can be boundaries. There's lots of ways that you can use this idea in life. I think about it like with boundaries in relationships, like a partnership. If I'm with my spouse, I might tell my spouse, like, here's our agreement. Um, well, I will say we had that conversation when we moved in together. It was like, what are we responsible for? In the sense, how are we splitting household tasks, right? Because I was used to doing everything by myself because I was a single parent. So I took care of everything. And when he moved in, I didn't want it to be like, well, I'm still going to do everything and you're just going to be big chilling. Like, no, if we're going to be partners, like let's have the conversation of who's going to do what so that there's not this unrealistic expectation from either of us. And so where we kind of landed was that with that is he takes care of all of the house stuff, maintenance, outdoors, yards, garbage, cars, vehicles. He takes care of all of those things. And I manage most of the things within the house, like the day to day, like cooking, dishes, grocery shopping. But we share like the not everyday tasks. So we pick a day and we all clean the house. We sweep, we mop, we clean the bathrooms. We, not me, not him, we do these things together. And that's been something that's worked for us for years. And there are times, like, even though our agreement is that, I take care of the kitchen stuff, he goes grocery shopping with me every single time. Why? Because he's got to fix the bags, right? He does. So his thing, like I do most of like the meal planning. I will say that task falls on me, but I don't mind. I don't mind doing that. If it ever became overwhelming, I definitely let's look at our agreement. Um, but we do a lot of those things together, and we keep those agreements with each other. And I can count on him to do the things that he says. He counts on me to do the things that I said, and that keeps again the relationship safe.
Right.
But it's like sometimes people are afraid in relationships, whether it be a work relationship, a personal relationship, to really like sit down and make those agreements, like say them out loud, like what am I expecting from you and what are you expecting from me. Let's have a honest and open conversation about it. And then most of the conflict later on down the road comes from these unspoken expectations, right? Well, you should have, you could have, if you would have, like, but tell people what you need and they'll probably meet you there, but don't just assume that they're going to know. And this rings true in the workplace as a supervisor, like, oh, they've been doing this job for 20 years. They should know what they're supposed to do. No, your job is to set clear expectations of what you're wanting from them. It's like playing Uno. Are you a big do you play board games and stuff with people like
Yeah.
Monopoly, Uno?
Well,
I
I do, but people don't like playing with me because they never win. So, but
Yeah, don't ever play with me. Don't ever play with me. I am a terrible loser.
yeah.
I'm a flip the table after 6 hours at Monopoly type of player.
Wow.
I'll scratch your hand reaching for the Uno cards if I have to pick four. I'll take flesh. Like I am not allowed to play most games because I'm cutthroat.
Well,
Anyways,
even in those games, I always, I used to tell people, I actually flunked kindergarten. And like, why? It's
yeah,
just because I don't play. I don't play.
exactly.
I don't play.
So
So,
exactly. But my point of this is like if you're gonna go play and you like to win, right? I can tell
mhm.
now, Carl, we can never play Uno together because it would one of us would perish. It'd be like gladiator. But
I am
one of my
secretly competitive. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm openly competitive, but this is where I usually will ask the question, well, how do you play? What are your rules? How do you play Monopoly? How do you play Uno? Can I put a +4 on a +2? Can I put a +2 on a +2? Like I need to know the rules before we start playing because if I'm winning and you're like, oh, that's not how we play, I'm gonna burn your house down. I
Do you
shouldn't say
play
that in
free parking?
California.
Do you play money and free parking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Good.
Absolutely. And you don't have to go around once before you can start buying properties. If you're in Monopoly,
Oh.
buy, buy while it's hot. So this is,
Oh.
but again, this is why it's important to clarify. This is exactly, and these are board games. These don't have any like impact on life aside from like those few people I'm not friends with anymore because they can't lose to a winner. But aside from them, um, sorry to the Morales family. But aside from like board games, I mean, in life, it's kind of like the same thing. I I've been alive for many decades. I was born in the 1900s, but when I still enter into uh, a work relationship or whatever, it's like, what do you need from me? I just want clarity on what you want from me, and here's what I expect from you. Let's talk about that. When we started the podcast, we had a somewhat of a conversation around that. I'm like, I'm happy to do the podcast, Carl, but I'm not doing any of the work. Don't expect me to edit or market or do any of that behind the scenes stuff. That's just not like anything I would be interested in. And Carl said, cool. So he carries this podcast. I'm just the personality hire. But that was the agreement that we made. And good job, Carl. You've actually kept with it for all of these episodes. So thank you for that. But it wasn't a surprise that I wasn't going to do any work, right? It wasn't a surprise.
No, no. But it is a surprise that you don't go all the way around before you can start buying properties. So
No,
we'll
why
we'll, we'll
wait?
have to deal. We'll have to deal. This concludes part one of our episode. Stay tuned for part two, coming Tuesday to all major podcast platforms.